Hey, Military Spouse Magazine. It is Megan Brown coming to you live from my kitchen, but you wouldn't know that because I have this very sweet background. I'm so excited to be here today with Lauralee Lambert, Army spouse, stationed at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. She's here with us to talk with us a little bit about military spouse careers, working from home, and the amazing company she works for, Travelers Insurance. Welcome, Lauralee.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be talking with you today.
I am so excited. So usually when we do these interviews, we have a few minutes to catch up before we go live. And we have just had so much fun in this conversation, sharing our stories about being a military spouse and the
Yes,
portability of careers. And I'd really love to share some of the amazing things we talked about with our audience. So Lauralee, tell
absolutely.
us a little bit about your military spouse story.
Yeah, so I am originally from Colorado Springs, Colorado, and that is where I met my husband. He is Army, and that is where he was stationed at the time at Fort Carson. So, growing up my whole life, I was familiar with with the military life kind of from afar. So I was always like, that's not for me. That's not what I want. Definitely not. And then I met my husband and we got married. And soon after we got married, of course, I get the experience of the full military lifestyle. And we PCSed not too long after getting married. And we went to Fort Campbell, Tennessee. Or Fort Campbell, Kentucky, I guess, technically. But when I was in the Springs, I had a job, I had a whole life. I was working as an insurance agent. And then, of course, PCSing to Fort Campbell meant I had to quit my job and leave my whole life behind. So that's kind of where it all began.
Oh my gosh. And don't so many of us share that story of having a life that we've built and then we marry into the military and we just watch pieces of it fall off in massive quantity while we
Yeah,
try and figure out what to do next. And when
exactly.
I was listening to your story, there were so many things that I just loved about it. First being, moving a career and figuring out what to do next. And so tell us a little bit about how you found Travelers and what it's like to work there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I've been married to my husband for almost 13 years. So I've just recently come to work for Travelers about a year and a half ago. So it took me quite a while to get here. But ultimately, what ended up happening was, over a decade of just kind of bouncing around between jobs and not being able to really find my footing since becoming a military spouse and just the constant PCSing and this and that. So I finally started looking for remote positions when COVID happened, because that was like the peak time. If you're going to get a remote job, that was then. So I seized it and I was utilizing a place called VertForce that I found on Facebook. They have a really great Facebook page. VertForce had a listing for Travelers, and it specifically had said in the listing that Travelers was starting this new military spouse initiative, and that they were planning to hire 100 military spouses within, a year or something like that. So I applied and I got it, and the rest is history.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Shout out to VertForce out there doing all the
Yeah,
good things. Oh my gosh, I love it. I
absolutely.
love it. And so when I was listening to, kind of what your experience has been at Travelers, I'd love for you to share some of the things that you love about working with this company.
Absolutely. So, first and foremost, just the fact that they are so intentional about hiring military spouses. So, I mean, I had heard of Travelers from before in my insurance time, so I was already familiar with the company. They're the oldest insurance company actually in the nation. So, I knew who they were, and they were already like, okay, yeah, they're cool. But the fact that they're specifically looking for military spouses and they see us as an untapped market, something that I have felt my whole time as a military spouse, to be like, I have all these skills. Why won't someone utilize me? Like, this is ridiculous. And finally, here's a company that will. So, that first and foremost, amazing. But beyond that, I was very impressed coming on to Travelers, because when I started having a background in insurance, I wasn't too overwhelmed. I was excited. I was looking forward to it. But this industry can be scary. And I was impressed because there's a lot of people in my training class who hadn't had the insurance background that I had had. But the training made it so that we were all on the same level. Like, we started our positions on the same playing field. And it's amazing. We had 2 weeks where they gave us time to be trained and learn just our licensing before you get your insurance license, and then a full 6 months of training before we were actually fully on the job by yourself. So a lot of support, just amazing.
And that is, I don't want to say unheard of, but man, that amount of immersive training and support from the get-go is a rare
Yes,
find indeed. And a little known fact
absolutely.
about the insurance industry is that that licensure can travel with you. As an insurance agent, I actually started as an insurance producer when I was a young military spouse, and it was a great way for me to grow in a professional career. And I love hearing that they're equipping military community members with adequate training so that they're not walking into an industry feeling overwhelmed, and they are in a place where they are in an unsustainable employment, situation. That's amazing. And lastly,
Absolutely.
you get to work from home too. How great is that?
Yes, absolutely. It's just amazing. No commute, like I get to pick my kid up from the
Dress
bus
code
stop
is
if I need
comfortable.
to. Yeah, dress code. I get to wear sweatpants to work. Like I can have my cat on my desk all day hanging out with me. Like it's amazing. And when I PCS next, I know I'm bringing my job with me. Like Travelers has already said they're going to do what they need to do in order to make the process smooth for me. And they're just really supportive in the entire thing. So it's just amazing.
That is absolutely wonderful. I get overjoyed when I hear that companies are stepping into the gap, creating spaces for military community members to flourish in their
Yes.
careers. One of the things that we began talking about before we started recording was just how difficult it was even 10, 15 years ago. My dog is all excited. You can hear her in the background. Working from home, guys. But
Yes.
it was just unheard of to see all of these amazing opportunities in the career space. And so what we were talking about was just how amazing it is that there are people in our community that are really getting out there and doing amazing
Yes.
things. Let's talk a little
Just
bit
leading
more
the way
about
for
that.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Tell me a
And
little
just,
bit more. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm all excited.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I was going to say VertForce, I mean, for them to be like my main point of contact to find this position, because, I was looking on LinkedIn and I was looking on all the different job hunting sites. I hadn't seen that this Travelers posting. Like, why hadn't I? Who knows why I hadn't? But the fact is, there's VertForce specifically for military spouses who put that out there, for someone like me to find. And now it's kind of changed the trajectory of my life from this point. And so, Kimber, if you're listening, thank you so much. There's just all it takes is that one person or the one organization to kind of light the fire and you're off.
We were talking about the connectivity that exists within this community. You were sharing about how Kimber and VertForce gave you this amazing opportunity just through sharing the information. And in the same way, I'm a freelancer here because Erica over at Instant Teams connected me to the military spouse writing group. And I want to encourage you guys out there, if you're listening, you can not only be a connector, but you can intentionally seek out opportunities through building relationships, right? The relationships in this community
Absolutely.
are second to none. And some of the most beautiful working relationships that I've been able to construct over the last 15 years, 16 years as a military spouse. Gosh, we're getting up there, y'all. 16 years as a military spouse have just been because someone was intentionally connecting me to someone else. There's so many organizations, AMC, if you're looking to get connected as an entrepreneur, VertForce, if you're looking for work, Wise Advise and Assist, if you're looking to plug into virtual work, Instant Teams, they're also always looking for military spouses. And it's so interesting because all these community members, right, actively believe that there's an untapped resource, like you're saying, in the military spouse community. And we can do so much together, and we have so many raw skills. And it's amazing that there are companies like Travelers out there and community organizations out there that are trying to connect the dots for us. What a beautiful testament to
Absolutely.
what we're doing right now. And as we end our interview, one of the things I wanted to ask you for our listeners at home, if you're someone at home that's thinking, I don't know about an insurance career, I would love for Lauralee to share a little bit about what it's like, what she does, but ultimately, like just some advice and some encouragement for those of you who may not have thought insurance would be a viable career option.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just kind of happened into insurance, and I think a lot of people end up in the industry that way. It's a very common comment that you hear once you're on the inside. But
On the inside.
on the inside. But insurance sounds super, super boring. But once you actually kind of learn the ins and outs of it, it's really interesting. And the work that you're doing is fulfilling. Like you see an importance to it, you see the purpose to it. And so it just, ultimately at the end of the day, like I feel good about what I'm doing and it is fulfilling. And so at Travelers specifically, I started in sales. And I know as far as entry level jobs go, they do claims, customer service. So there's a few options just starting out. And regardless of what position, there's still this amazing training that Travelers provides you with. So you're going to be supported regardless of which role that you choose. But like I said, I've been with Travelers a year and a half. And a few months ago, I actually got a promotion to underwriter. So now I'm in underwriting. Yeah, it's super exciting. And so what that means is that I review accounts and I get to determine, who's eligible, who's not. I get to look at interesting claims photos, interesting inspections. Like if there's ever questions on, is something okay, is something eligible? I'm the person that someone would call to ask. So it's exciting. Like I said, it's fulfilling. And ultimately, what I would say, what any advice that I would give to someone considering this is to just give it a shot, like it's so much more interesting than what you would imagine. Just try it. Like if all the other aspects of the job sound good, the time, being able to work from home, being able to work for a great organization like this one, like just try. You might be surprised because it really is fun.
Oh, I love that so much. And I think one of the things that we mentioned earlier is just there's endless possibilities. Starting in an entry level
That's right.
position and being able to work your way up to all of these amazing
Yes,
opportunities inside the organization. Many of
absolutely.
us, when we became military spouses, those of us that have been in this space for over 10 to 12 years, right? When we became military spouses, the options were very limited. Licensure was hard to move. It was almost like we were
Yes.
always choosing between the military community and our careers. And some of us, through blood, sweat, and tears, have maintained long careers. But man, the opportunities that are out there now are just such an encouragement to me. And
Absolutely.
if you're a younger military spouse, if you're just now getting your feet wet into this space and you're wondering what the next 10, 15, 20 years of your life is going to look like, there's so many more opportunities for you than what we had in the beginning. And I
Absolutely.
celebrate that for you. And so if you're wondering what it would be like to get into an insurance career, you can look up your state laws. You can look up your state testing requirements, and you can begin looking at these companies. And just from what I'm hearing, man, Travelers seems to be the place to start. This is amazing.
For
6 months
sure.
of training is a big deal, and so to be able to just get your feet wet and jump right in and build the life that you want in this military experience. And so, Lauralee, I thank you for joining me today. I've
Absolutely.
enjoyed spending my
Yes.
morning coffee time with you, right? Parenting
Yeah,
style
thank you so much.
survivalist. Um, all of my children are home, and it's a wonder that there's been no snack emergencies in this recording. And so
They've done great.
they did great. Um, thank you so much for joining us this morning and sharing your
Thank you.
story. And what an inspiration. Thank you, Lauralee.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's great talking to you.
All right, guys, we're signing off, but it has been great to be with you, and I hope you're encouraged. Toodles.